Welcome to Storyflix. In this video, we will explain I'm underage, but I'm not a child. This movie tells the story of a first-year high school girl who has spent her entire life living in luxury and being spoiled by her father. She have a crush on a third-year student who is very popular at school because of his good looks. Her father announced that she would marry him. However, what surprised her the most was he admitted that he agreed to the marriage for financial independence and he wants nothing to do with her. Not only that, she also has to live in misery in narrow and dilapidated house. How will her story continue? Will she keep her marriage with him? Let's find out in I'm underage, but I'm not a child. The film begins by showing a high school girl named Karen Oriyama, who is always treated like a queen, where all her needs have been met and served by her servants. Karen is the only daughter of a billionaire couple, Kazuki Oriyama and his wife, who love and pamper Karen very much. Throughout her life, Karen always got everything she wanted. Karen's dream that has not yet come true is to marry a handsome prince. One morning, right on her 16th birthday, Karen's assistant, a man named Kaburaki, tried to wake her up. The maids then carried Karen's body and carried her to the bathroom, where Karen would be dressed and prepared to go to school. Kaburaki says that Karen gets a lot of birthday gifts from billionaires around the world. After that, Karen went to school by limousine. On their way to school, Karen's childhood friend, a young man named Isuzu Ibina, welcomed Karen by giving her a bunch of flowers. Ibina actually has a crush on Karen for a long time, but Karen only considers him as her best friend because they have been friends since childhood. While on her way to her class, Karen heard a group of girls talking about Nao Tsurugi, a handsome and popular boy at their school. The girls were also very enthusiastic when they saw Nao's appearance playing soccer on the field. Karen then rushed there, and just like the other girls at her school, Karen was very mesmerized by his good looks, and subconsciously she walked to the center of the field to take a close look at him. But then, Karen was hit by a ball kick that caused her body to bounce. Luckily, Nao saw this and immediately rushed to help Karen. Karen, who was so shocked by Nao's heroic actions that had saved her, then immediately fell in love with him. In the evening, Karen's parents celebrated Karen's birthday party lavishly and festively, where they also sang and danced together. Her parents gave a very beautiful wedding dress to Karen. Kaburaki then tells Karen that her father plans to make her marry after her 16th birthday. According to Kaburaki, Karen's future husband is predicted to make her a better person and feel happiness forever. Hearing that, Karen immediately felt annoyed because she only wanted to marry Nao, not another man. The angry Karen then slammed and threw things nearby. Her father tried to reveal the identity of Karen's future husband, but the girl was already upset and angry, so she slammed the photo her father gave her without looking at it carefully. It turns out that Karen's future husband is Nao Tsurugi, where Karen's father deliberately asked him to marry Karen, and the wedding was intended as a birthday present for her. After Karen finally found out the identity of her future husband, Karen immediately agreed to the marriage. The next day, Nao and Karen finally got married at the church. However, Nao refuses to exchange rings and kiss because they are considered minors in the eyes of the law. Not only that, Nao also asked that his marriage to Karen be kept secret from others because right now he just wants to focus on his education. Karen didn't seem to mind it, and they finally got married. After the wedding ceremony, Nao then took Karen to his cramped and dilapidated house, where there was only one bedroom, and it was much smaller than Karen's luxurious bedroom. Karen was then told by her parents that from now on, she had become Nao's wife and had to adapt to Nao's life, which was simple and far from luxurious. At first, Karen had wondered if she could feel comfortable living in that narrow house. However, Karen said that she will try to be a good wife to Nao because she loves him. After the two of them were finally alone in the house, Nao's demeanor suddenly turned cold, even though Karen seemed happy to be with him. Nao then reveals to Karen that the purpose of marrying her is only for her wealth, where Nao has made a pact with Karen's father that one day he will inherit Karen's wealth if he is willing to marry her. Karen seemed very surprised to hear that, especially after Nao said that he didn't like Karen at all and thought Karen was a stupid and naive girl because she only likes and chooses someone from the face, regardless of background and character. The next day, Karen only woke up when it was already 10 in the morning because she was not used to getting up alone. Karen then got ready to take a shower, but the girl didn't know how to turn on the water tap. Preparing all her needs on her own was a new experience for Karen, and she had a lot of trouble doing it. Not only that, when Karen was about to go to school, she got lost for hours and only arrived at school when the lesson was over and all the students were about to go home. Abina saw that Karen looked troubled, then asked Karen about what really happened and why Karen had just come to school. Not wanting her marriage to be known by Abina, Karen hurriedly left him without explaining anything. Karen finally came home when it was night and now looked so upset because the house was so messy. Karen then wept in frustration and told Now that she didn't know how to do housework at all because her maids had always been there for her and did everything. Realizing this, Now finally melted and told Karen that from now on he would teach Karen to do housework so that Karen could get used to a simple life. Now teaches Karen to turn on the faucet, wash clothes, cleaning the floor, cooking, and so on. It didn't take long for Karen to master all the housework and get used to doing it. One day, Karen cooks a special dish for him. When tasting it, Now seemed impressed because it turned out to be quite delicious and Now liked it very much. However, Now was surprised to find out that Karen had spent more than half of their monthly allowance just to prepare the special dish. Karen casually responded to this and then called her father to ask for extra money. Her father then asked Now and Karen to his house and explained their financial problems. When Kazuki was about to give extra money to Karen and her husband, Now immediately refused, saying that the money given by Karen's parents was still enough and he would manage it well so that their needs were met until the end of the month. Hearing this, Karen's parents seemed so impressed and amazed by Now's maturity and responsibility as a husband. Karen and Now then stay at Karen's father's house for the night. The next morning, when Now and Karen were about to go to school, Karen suddenly approached the cooks at her house and apologized to them for throwing away the dishes they had cooked for her. After experiencing for herself how difficult it is to make food for others, Karen finally realizes and will always appreciate every dish that is served to her. Hearing Karen apologized, her parents and Kaburaki looked both surprised and happy because this was the first time Karen had apologized to someone else. Karen's parents and Kaburaki then hugged Now tightly and thanked him for turning Karen into a better girl and respecting others. While at school, Now and Karen deliberately sit far apart so people don't suspect their relationship. But it seems Abina is starting to notice the closeness of the two of them. Not long after, several girls came to Now while offering their lunch to him. Karen, who felt jealous, then got up and chased them away. However, after realizing that her actions were excessive, Karen immediately fell silent and immediately sat back down. On the other hand, a girl named Saya Matsui seems to be looking at Now from a distance. When Saya walked away, Now then got up and called her, which made Karen feel jealous because Now was paying attention to the girl. At home, Karen asked Now about Saya, but he was reluctant to explain anything to Karen. Because Karen continued to insist, Now was annoyed and decided to leave. The next day, Now and Karen meet at school, but they don't greet each other. Saya then went to Karen and asked if Karen was dating Now. Karen actually wanted to tell about their marriage so that Saya would no longer approach him, but Karen had to keep her promise. Saya tells Karen to immediately end her love affair with him because he is dating Karen just for the sake of Karen's wealth and Now will leave Karen as soon as he has paid off his school fees arrears. Karen doesn't mind it at all, and spending money for someone she loves is not a problem for Karen because Karen feels that she is already rich and very well off. Now turned out to be secretly eavesdropping on Karen and Saya's conversation, where he was relieved that Karen didn't show an overreaction regarding his reason for marrying the girl just for money. Now finally finds out that Karen has always been assisted by her servants and Abina to do school exams. Therefore, Now took the initiative to teach Karen every day. At first Karen struggled to learn, but she gradually got used to taking notes every lesson, surprising the teacher and classmates with Karen's change in attitude. To motivate Karen in studying, Now promises to date Karen if Karen manages to get a good ranking in her class. Hearing this, Karen felt very happy and studied even harder. One day, Abina, who noticed a big change in Karen, then asked if Karen had a boyfriend. However, Karen didn't tell the truth and said that she studied hard because she wanted to get a good ranking. Even so, Abina did not necessarily believe Karen's words. Long story short, Karen finally managed to get good grades on the exam and was ranked in the top 10 in her class. When Karen was about to go home to tell Now about it, suddenly a group of people dressed in black kidnapped Karen and brought her in front of Abina. Apparently, Abina already knew about Karen and Now's marriage. Abina also threatens to tell the principal about the marriage so that Karen and Now are expelled from school if Karen doesn't divorce Now as soon as possible. Karen immediately felt shocked and did not expect that Abina, whom she had considered as her best friend, actually dared to kidnap her and threaten her like that. Karen, who was being held captive in a room, then called Now, who was very worried because Karen had not come home. Karen then tells him everything that happened, including the threats from Abina, and asks Now to come pick her up. Without thinking, Now immediately rushed to Abina's place. When they finally face each other, Abina finds out that Now married Karen just for money. Abina said that Now would never love or make Karen happy because of that. Abina said that he had been friends with Karen since childhood, so he knew what Karen had been dreaming of all this time, which was to dance with her idol prince and have a very grand wedding, which Now, who is an ordinary person, would not be able to do. Now has actually fallen in love with Karen and wants to always be by her side. However, Now finally realizes that he will not be able to make Karen happy and Karen really deserves all her dreams and feels happiness forever. Abina then asks Now to divorce Karen if Now really cares for Karen. Now and Karen finally meet again, but Now then asks Karen to stay temporarily at her parents' house because the electricity in their house is out. Not only that, Now also promised to take Karen out on a date tomorrow. Now really kept his promise and went on a date with Karen the next day. They visited many places, tried various street snacks, and had a heart-to-heart chat. Both promised to always support each other. But then, Now said that he wanted a divorce from Karen. Hearing that, Karen immediately felt shocked and devastated. After that, Now decided to drop out of school, which infuriated his mother and scolded him badly. Now did that on purpose because it was the only way not to meet Karen. Even though Now actually feels sad and frustrated because he has to part with Karen. On the other hand, Karen finally returned to her parents' house and looked so sad and gloomy. This time, her parents couldn't do anything to make Karen happy because they couldn't change Now's decision to divorce Karen. Abina then came to see Karen and took her to his magnificent palace-like house. The two dance there and Abina expresses her love for Karen. However, Karen rejects Abina because she loves Now very much and Karen prefers to live in a narrow house with Now rather than living in a palace with another man. The next day, Kaburaki comes to Now to hand over the divorce papers. He also gave Karen a favorite fairy tale book which tells about a princess who finally meets the prince she loves. After reading the book, Now finally realizes about Karen's true dream and he should not give up on pursuing his love for Karen. Now then rushed to Abina and asked him not to interfere with his relationship with Karen. Abina then tells that Karen has rejected him because she prefers Now to be her life partner. Abina decides to let Karen go and wants Karen to be happy even though she's not with him. After that, Now then went home and was very happy to finally meet Karen again. The two of them kissed passionately. Karen asks him about Saya, but Now says that now he really loves Karen, not another woman. 5 years later, Karen and Now remarry to make their previous marriage official. This time, their wedding was lavish and attended by many invited guests. Karen finally succeeded in realizing her dream, and the two very happy brides kissed, and they lived happily ever after. The moral that can be learned from this film is, true love is regardless of social status and wealth. So, never give up your love for someone, especially if that person also loves you and comes from a rich family.